صدى صليل الصوارم نشيد الأباء ودرب القتال طريق الحياة فبين اقتحام يبيد الطغاة وكاتم صوت جميل صدى به عز ديني وذل البغاة فيا قوم هبوا لدرب الكما فإما حياة وإما ممات يغيظ العدا.
If I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed.
The government. It loves you and wants to keep you safe and well. It even wants to make paying taxes, fines, and court costs easier for you. How? Well, you'll need to meet your straw man. He was born the same day you were. He looks like you, has the same name, and lives in your house, but you never knew he existed. You will have even paid his parking tickets or taxes. The worst part? He's been dead from day one. From every birth certificate, a legal personality, or legal fiction, is created with the same name to confuse little old you into thinking it's you. So, there is a human you and a paper you, or as it's commonly known, a straw man. So when it seems like government officials, court clerks, or the police are speaking English, they aren't. They're speaking legalese, designed to make you agree to verbal and written contracts without even knowing about it, all spun from Black's Law Dictionary. For example, when the police say, "Do you understand?" you'll say, "Yes." What they are really saying is, "Do you stand under our authority?" Oops-a-daisy, you just created a verbal contract with them. Oh, you clever government. Did you know that whenever you register something, you are handing over title to the person you register it with? That's right. Whenever you register something with the government, they assume it belongs to them. Registered your car? Super! Now you are the registered keeper of your vehicle, and the government can crush it when you don't pay your, straw man's taxes. Expecting a new bundle of joy? Well then you need to register your little darling with a birth certificate. Then they can start the process all over again and create a new straw man for your little one. Isn't that great? So when Junior grows up, he'll be able to generate revenue just like you have. When you notify on your baby by signing the birth certificate, your child becomes a ward of state, and if the government doesn't like what you're doing, they'll assume it's okay to take the child away, or make new rules for things they don't like. Not enough school? Smacking your child? Shouting too loudly? Then it's off to social services for the little one. When you get a bill, it's sent to you, but belongs to your straw man, not you. That's why bills, fines, and summons start with Mr., Mrs., or Ms. Sometimes you'll see your surname in capitals, just like on a gravestone. That's because your straw man is dead, and just a silly piece of paper, created before you could comprehend or even consent to it. When you go to court, you represent your straw man, so you, the human, take on any costs, fees, taxes, and fines involved for the straw man. The human you doesn't even need to pay them. But you made a contract with the court by appearing on behalf of your legal personality or straw man, just like the government knew you would. Confused? Well, don't worry. The government doesn't want you to know anyway. If you knew, you'd stop paying things like council tax and parking tickets. Because when you go to court, you are representing your straw man. You are you, alive and made of flesh and blood. Your straw man, or legal personality, is a piece of paper created from your birth certificate. And you think it's you. What a silly Billy. Would you like to know more? Well then go over to tpuc.org. Get up, get informed, and get real.
Sabbatai Zevi declared himself to be the Jewish Messiah in the year 1666. This false Messiah led the largest Messiah movement in Jewish history, and attracted more than half the population of European Jews. How did he do it? By promising to return the Jews to their ancestral homeland in Palestine. Sabbatai Zevi made everything that was holy unholy. He rejected the rules of the Jewish holy books and every standard of Jewish decency. There would be no more guilt or sin or right or wrong, no more sexual taboos, no more 10 Commandments, no more fasting. Instead, there would be feasting. Sabbatai Zevi's immoral leadership finally fell from grace when the Sultan of Turkey threatened him with torture unless he converted to Islam. Sabbatai converted to Islam, but he brought his infectious evil theology with him. 1 century later, Jacob Frank proclaimed himself to be the reincarnation of Sabbatai Zevi and the living Messiah for all Jews. Not even Sabbatai Zevi was as evil as Jacob Frank and his disciples. Jacob Frank rejected traditional Judaism. He reversed the truth and told his followers, since we can't all be saints, let's all be sinners. The best way to imitate God, said Frank, is to cross every boundary, transgress every taboo, and mix, as God did, the sacred with the profane. Orgies, incest, rape, and sexual intercourse with children, including sodomy on young boys, were no longer sinful. In 1773, Jacob Frank traveled to Frankfurt, Germany, the birthplace of the Illuminati. That's where he formed an unholy alliance with Adam Weishaupt and Mayor Amschel Rothschild's banking dynasty. The ambition of the Rothschild dynasty was to win control of the world's gold, central banks, and wealth. The Rothschilds sent John Jacob Astor, Jacob Schiff, and Paul Warburg to America, where they influenced the privatization of the Federal Reserve banking system and the dismantling of the American Constitution. The goal of Weishaupt and the Jesuits was to take control of the Vatican and its hierarchy of Catholic clergy. Weishaupt formed the Order of the Illuminati and infiltrated the Freemasonic lodges with his doctrine until every Masonic lodge in every nation accepted it. The Frankist goal was the destruction and replacement of Jewish ethics with a satanic religion based on the exact opposite of Jewish teachings. When this unholy alliance of conscienceless men was seeded, a cancerous war against humanity erupted. With Rothschild financing, Jacob Frank became fabulously wealthy and was put in charge of spreading a Luciferian theology that would be the hidden hand behind future wars and revolutions. Jacob Frank's followers were called Sabbatean Frankists. They practiced witchcraft and occult rituals, including animal and human sacrifices. Lucifer, they declared, was the true God. The Sabbatean Frankists expanded their movement by masquerading as converts to other religions. They converted to Catholicism and to Islam, where they embedded themselves and spread their Luciferian infection as closeted crypto-Jews. The Frankists traded their wives and daughters with members and with powerful non-members who they needed to seduce into their cult. Jewish professor Gershon Scholem called Jacob Frank one of the most frightening men in Jewish history. By 1776, Orthodox Jewish rabbis and leaders rejected Jacob Frank and the pagan invasion of evil that took hold in 18th century Europe. They declared Jacob Frank and his Luciferian followers to be heretics. Jewish author and historian Dr. Henry Makow has thoroughly researched the Sabbatean Frankist movement.
The Sabbatean Frankists were out and out Satanists. They believe that they have to defy any kind of natural morality, defy any kind of natural law, defy God, and they actually indulge in every kind of depravity as a form of worship. because they worship Satan. And they promoted promiscuity, and that's where our promiscuity today comes from. It's 200 or 300 years old. There's nothing new or avant-garde about it. They promoted incest, they promoted pedophilia, and every kind of sexual depravity.
America's Zionist-owned media falsely reported that Iran's President Ahmadinejad threatened to wipe Israel off the map. This was a mistranslation. What the president of Iran really said is that Israel is occupying Palestine and has no legitimacy on the world map. Traditional Torah Jews and rabbis agree with him. There is speculation that the revolutionary document called the Protocols of Zion is a secret Sabbatean Frankist document. This document embodies 24 protocols which map out a detailed Zionist plan for global control. The protocols, written in the late 1700s, describe in precise detail the world domination plan that is unfolding today. Rabbi Marvin Antelman charges that the world today is ruled by a Sabbatean Frankist satanic cult that has conspired with the Illuminati to destroy all religions and fuse all nations into one.
I have joining me today Dr. and Rabbi Marvin Antelman. Welcome to the show, Rabbi.
Thank you very much for having me here. First of all, let me say this. There are a lot of conspiracy theories out there. I'm not interested in theories. I'm interested in facts. So the scholarship over the years that I've utilized are sources that are impeccable. A man by the name of Shabbatai Tzvi, who was born in 1626 and died in 1676, came along and said, I am the Messiah. And he had a tremendous following. When it was realized that his following was so great, there would be problems, the Sultan gave Shabbatai a choice. Either you die or convert to Islam. So he converted. Now, there were about 1 million followers prior to the conversion. When the conversion happened, then there was disillusionment among the Jews. But there were some diehard people who set up different cults of Shabbatai Tzvi. And the worst one of them was called the Domeh, which was a secret organization. And the Domeh was based in Turkey and in Salonika. And the Domeh gave rise to these terrible orgies that went on, which became part of the immorality theology of Shabbatai Tzvi, corrupted later on. He apostatized himself 10 years before his death. So when he died in 1676, he had these cults doing all kinds of evil.
And the reason that these followers of Shabbatai Tzvi were doing evil was because what?
Here's the thing. The Talmud says that the Messiah would come when everybody's good or everybody's bad. There is such a saying in the Talmud. So the Sabbatians said like this: it's impossible for everybody to be good. It's easy to be bad. So they turned around the Torah and they said, if you do an evil deed, then you will use up the energy of the universe, and it'll collapse, and you'll force the Messiah to come because you will have used up all the evil in the world. So whenever they engage in an orgy, they would make a bracha, and every day they would figure out a way to do as many sins as possible. Like if you eat chaylev, you're chayav karet. In other words, if you eat fat, according to the Torah, you're to be excommunicated from your people. So they would eat fat that was prohibited, non-kosher fat, from a kosher animal, which is chaylev, which is in that category, like eating blood from a kosher animal.
So they would dafka do the opposite.
They do the opposite
in order to hasten the
coming of the Messiah. After Shabbatai Tzvi died, one of the most powerful Sabbatian cults, as they were called, was a transformation of the Domeh, the most extreme cult, to Europe through an insidious person by the name of Jacob Frank. He died in 1791. Now the Frankists started to spread and take over entire communities and make them satanic. And you can actually trace a line historically, which I do in my book, to the CFR from Shabbatai Tzvi, and another organization called the Illuminati, which was founded in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. And they were involved also in the French Revolution, which is also well documented.
So what you're saying is that there really does exist a New World Order, that it's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy.
Right, and Professor Katz wrote a book called The Jews and Freemasonry, which gives a history of the interface between Jews and some of the cults that derived out of Shabtai Tzvi. But the next big cult that came from Shabtai Tzvi after the Domeh organization, which is in Turkey, the next big cult were the Frankists, as I mentioned with Jacob Frank. So Jacob Frank, the Vad Arba Ratzah, the Council for Lands, wanted to deal with Frank, and they decided to have a big excommunication on the 20th of Sivan 250 years ago. And there they made the following rulings. They said everybody that is a Frankist is to be excommunicated.
From the Jewish people.
From the Jewish people, bastards to the 10th generation, is what it said. And they prohibited people, because the Frankists were into Kabbalah, they prohibited the study of Kabbalah until you were 30 or 40 years old and you had a belly full, as they said, full of Talmud. Only then could you study the Kabbalah.
Right.
And they said they're women or whores, and they're hereby excommunicated from our people to the 10th generation.
This is what the Council of Foreign Lands labeled the Frankists,
right,
because they so deviated from Judaism and all that Judaism holds to be true and righteous. These people went off and made basically their own deformed religion, and so the Jews wanted nothing to do with them. They kicked them out.
That is correct.
Okay. Are there non-Jews that joined this Sabbatian cult?
No, non-Jews did not join the Sabbatian cult, but the non-Jews did join the Illuminati.
Today, royals, politicians, banksters, and businessmen form the inner circle of the Sabbatian Frankist elite. They live secret, two-faced lives, sometimes posing as religious Jews or Christians or Islamists. Modern Zionism is rooted in the unholy alliance of Frank, Weishaupt, and Rothschild. It has infiltrated world religions, taken over Freemasonry, engineered wars and revolutions, and turned nations and citizens into their debt slaves worldwide. Unfortunately, Muslims, Christians, and Jews do not recognize their common enemy because that enemy is invisible. It hides within their own religions. The enemy also hides within the activist community. It finances big-budget documentaries and movements. The end game is to sell a divisive, anti-capitalist, atheistic message and deliver trusting followers right into the lap of a communist New World Order.
New World Order, Mr. Rothschild?
What?
New World Order? Depopulation?
Listen, who are you...
Genocide?
Who are you televising for?
We just want to let you know the New World Order has no legitimacy, and that we as a people are not afraid, and we are waking up to the robber barons and the big banksters who are looting this economy with the Federal Reserve.
Well...
What do you... I mean, the Rothschilds family did start the Federal... they divided Europe first, took over Europe, the Napoleon...
Don't exaggerate.
Summer, and I'm working with an event in Palm Beach, the Williams Invitational. You can ask for me, Summer. My last name is Diaz, D-I-A-Z. Yeah, I definitely have different personas and different attitudes. Psycho Serena. You don't want to meet her. She's on the court. She's at practice, and she's in the match. And she's awesome, and she's amazing. She's this great athlete. There's Summer. She helps me out a lot. Summer has a whole story. Summer has a whole story. Like if I have to write long letters or if I have to do, different things, then Summer doesn't. She got married. Now she got divorced. She moved to England. Normally, when she talks to people on the phone, she just gets on the phone and she's like, hello, I'm Summer. How are you? When I'm doing my fashion, I get into this whole fashion moment and this whole fashion thing, whether I'm on HSN or just the perfect jegging, and they go really, really well with the Today's Special. I'm thinking of designs where I'm drawing, or, I'm pulling out tears. And then the other girl that, the one that's really mean is Megan. Oh, no. She's extremely mischievous. You don't want to run to Megan. There's Taquanda. Whew. Jaquanda is rough. She is not Christian. She's from the hood. She was at the U.S. Open in 2009.
Football, and that gives Kim Clijsters 2 match points. Serena Williams charges after the linesperson that made the call.
In that particular match that Taquanda played, first of all, I wasn't there, but I heard about it, and I ended up getting a lot of the backlash from it.
Laquanda got loose that day. Uh-oh.
It was a brutal call.
Ele aparece sempre no fim de cada jogo. Persegue-me. Atormenta-me. Mesmo que tenha arrebentado com o marcador. Ele tem sempre algo a dizer. É muito chato. Que eu não cheguei àquele passe. Ou não controlei a bola. Todos os livros têm de dar golo. Sua frase favorita. Se achas que já és perfeito, então nunca vais ser. E continua, continua e continua. Todo o santo dia. 7 dias por semana. Mas sabes que mais? Eu adoro este gajo.
Mike, you got one last chance to make the man. Your competition is 100 of a second away. And they're coming for you. Come on, Mike, let's go. Come on. Come on. Keep going.
Along with his coach, Bob Bowman, Phelps has extensively trained himself to visualize and plan for both good and bad outcomes.
He's the best I've ever seen and maybe the best ever in terms of visualization. He will see it exactly the perfect race, and he will see it like he's sitting in the stands, and he'll see it like he's in the water. And then he will go through scenarios, what if things don't go well?
You know, if my suit ripped or if my goggles broke, you know, what would I do?
So he has all of this in his database so that when he swims the race, he's already programmed his nervous system to do one of those. And he'll just pick the one that happens to come up. If everything's perfect, he'll just go with the perfect one. If he has to make a change, he's got it in there.
The added benefit of visualizing all of these different scenarios is the confidence gained from knowing he has a plan for everything. Bowman's computer analogy is apt. Because the different reactions are programmed into Phelps's mind, he doesn't have to worry about adapting on the day of a competition, and instead can focus on being the best athlete he can in the present. His mental self-reliance may be his biggest strength.
Stay tight in the pocket. Be on time. Is he blitzing?
3 seconds until sack.
Work your eyes to the left. Stare down that safety. Off the mic. What's the corner doing?
2 seconds until sack.
We need this one.
Looking for Harrison. Harrison's completely covered.
1 second until sack.
Who's breaking free? Who's breaking high? Who's my high?
As soon as Manning thinks it, then you see it. Highlights, updates, and scores at the speed of light. This is the NFL at sprint speed.
Time to open your presents! It's a Peyton Manning! Let's play with it! It's Peyton Manning, your very own action toy. Personal quarterback, he's all yours. Hey, it's broken! Aw, it says you gotta keep him hydrated.
The revelation is this:
For all his life, Walker says he has suffered from dissociative identity disorder, or DID, a rare and controversial mental illness once called multiple personality disorder.
I had it the whole time. I just didn't know what it was. I just didn't know how to cope with it.
There goes Herschel! There goes Herschel!
That young man you saw racing down the sidelines for the Georgia Bulldogs in the early 1980s,
He's running over people!
or flattening would-be tacklers on the road to a national championship, the one who set world records in track and field,
Herschel Walker.
the one who won the Heisman Trophy. Walker says that wasn't him.
He's got a blocker.
The guy who played 15 seasons of pro football and once danced with the Fort Worth Ballet. The one with the obsession for speed, the businessman, the public figure, the husband. None of those guys are him either. Not really. Those are his alters, he says, alternate personalities.
It's just personalities that can do different things for you. I told somebody once, you don't want the Herschel that play football. You don't want the Herschel that do business babysitting your child. You want a different person. When I'm competing, I'm a totally different person.
I think one of the problems we have in our society is that Hollywood brought us our definition of DID. And everybody thinks that DID should look like that.
In 1976, Sally Field introduced America to Sybil Dorsett, a traumatized young woman fractured into more than a dozen personalities, little girls, boys, a grandmother.
You're gonna hook me! You're gonna hook me!
The movie won 4 Emmys, but was widely panned by mental health experts as over-the-top and misleading, and misconceptions about the disorder linger to this day.
And that's one of Herschel's missions, is that I want to make sure people know that you don't have to be a SIBO to be DID. These alters are not just developed to carry trauma. They're also developed to help person adapt to life and function.
And for most of Walker's life, he says, that's just what they did. The warrior alter handled football and the pain that comes with it. The hero took over in public. The sentry kept friends and family at a distance.
It's not something people do consciously. Once he switched to that part of him, there's a thing we call amnesia that separates that part of the brain from the other part of the brain.
Mangazi says he met one of Walker's alters who actually appeared to be of a different race.
I remember noticing that he put his fingers in his hair exactly the way a white person would.
What do you mean? So,
you know,
normally you would never do this, and
no,
I would?
I'll never do that.
I saw voice changes.
Is there any way you can tell me the difference in his voice from one alter to another?
Raspy. He would say things like he didn't know who I was.
His own wife?
Right.
He didn't recognize
He would
you?
refer to me as Miss Lady.
Did he forget what your name was?
I don't think he knew.
From the most demanding eye in the game comes the most refined irons in golf. Nike Victory Red Irons.
I tend to have these blackout moments where I don't remember. I know I was there, but I don't remember actually performing the golf shot.
The athlete in the peak performance zone is really in a kind of a heightened state of awareness, an absorbed focus.
I get so entrenched on the moment, I guess my subconscious might take over. I don't know what the whole terminology is, but there are many putts or many shots where I don't remember hitting. I remember seeing the ball flight. I remember preparing for the shot, pulling the club out of the bag, and once I'm behind the ball, I'm walking in the shot, I don't remember until I see the ball leave. It's a weird thing.
As a Green Beret in Vietnam, Tiger Woods' father, Earl, had witnessed PSYOPs, psychological operations, wiping soldiers' memories in order to send them into battle.
All right, now walk out there.
Earl wondered what would happen if he used the same techniques on his son.
Ready, relax.
He hired a military psychiatrist who could reprogram Tiger like a computer.
Relax. No wait, no pain.
This man was Captain Jay Brunzer. Brunzer embarked on a bizarre and extraordinary program to hypnotize Tiger before he played. In a rare interview, Tiger talked about how he would forget whole sections of tournaments.
He was born in Basel, Switzerland. He started playing tennis at 6 years old. He could have been a soccer pro, but chose tennis. He once had a temper, but he found his cool and became a champion. He's definitely the man to beat. His name is Roger Federer. He's won 10 majors and counting. But my name is Tiger Woods. I have 12 majors and counting. So keep up, buddy.
Education sucks. Big, the wealthy, that the real owners, the big politicians, they're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have free.
Most people's eyes, Israel is a terrorist state. It's the fact that you cannot comprehend that fact that leads to the bias which runs through all of your reporting and every question that you've asked me in this interview.